What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and this is my top 10 favorite Emerson, Lake and Palmer songs. I did the albums, ranked those, and now I'm doing my songs. I'm going to talk through them, and at the end, I'll just put the list up on the screen for you visual learners. What is the Zappa connection? As was pointed out in the comment from Jesse M. in the last video, Dr. John himself was one of the uncredited freaks in the big freak out brigade ensemble madness of the end of the Freak Out album. And Dr. John has a line called Brain Salad Surgery. That is not what it's called. It's 3 words in one of his songs. Must have been the right time? Was it that song? I can't remember what song it was. One of his big hits says Brain Salad Surgery in it. And Emerson, Lake and Palmer obviously used that same 3-word phrase for one of their albums. That's the connection among many. Asia, yes, King Crimson, there's lots of threads. Anyways, yeah, here we go. Number 10, Infinite Space. Nice little piano-driven, very kind of herky-jerky instrumental piece that occurs kind of right in the middle of side 2 of Tarkus. Comes out of the hymn, segues out of the hymn fantastically. The coupling of those 2 songs is fantastic. But this is a nice, neat little kind of fun, proggy, rollicking, slightly jazzy, weird, herky-jerky instrumental piece that I just think makes the center of that album. It's kind of the soul of side B of that album. Great song. Number 9, The Barbarian, the lead-off track off their debut album, just a full-throated punch of prog music to kick off their career. Yeah. This is what I like about, and a lot of the songs that are on this list have this sort of full-on just whatever this sort of prog attack is that Emerson, Lake and Palmer does so well on those early albums. This is a great example of this. Number 9 on this list, so I don't think it's as a debut track up there with, I think, the all-time great debut tracks. I'm compiling that list, and we'll drop a video at some point. It is really cold here in Texas right now, and I'm afraid that's affecting my throat. I don't know if I'm getting sick. But The Barbarian, fantastic debut track off their debut album. 8, by far my favorite Greg Lake slow number. From the beginning, it has a very good early 70s acoustic vibe. That just I love that little groove. And then, as with Lucky Man, a fantastic sort of song-ending Emerson keyboard solo that just takes it to a whole other level. The contrast of like Emerson's just perfectly chosen sounds and the vibe he creates with Lake's sort of acoustic balladry is that's a perfect pairing. It's what makes Lucky Man not one of my favorite of his, but that's what utterly saves that song to these ears. But from the beginning, I really like the overall vibe of this. I think this is by far Lake's sort of best acoustic outing. Number 7, Carn Evil 9, First Impression Part 1. I don't ever give shout outs or tell you what is 11 or things like that. But at this point, I do want to give a shout out to Part 2 of this, which is essentially kind of the latter half of Part 1 boiled down to like 4.5 minutes. And I think it is in many ways like the perfect 5 minutes of prog music and like everything you could possibly want out of a prog song. Pomp, overindulgence, solos, ridiculousness. It's like all boiled down to like the 4.5+ minutes that is part 2 of this. I like the First Impression Part 1 better because you get the full like 8.5-minute experience. You get the first 3.5 minutes before any of the Part 2 themes come in, and then the Part 2 is like, get a different set of lyrics in the second half of the song than you would get in Part 2. That guitar solo is extended, so you get the full breadth of that guitar solo. So it really is almost like, it's weird. It's like, I wonder if they, like on the actual release, the album release, the physical release of the album back in the day, Part 1 closed side A, and then Part 2 open side B. And it almost is like, I wonder if they would have done that if CDs were around, knowing that they came back to back, because it just seems like a weird pairing. But I think Part 1 is just a little more of a fuller experience. It's like almost twice the length. But again, it's just them at their full-blown prog rock, doing their thing 100%. Like this is them at their best. The Gnome off Pictures at an Exhibition. Love the sequencing of this album. We start off with that Promenade, which sets it up in a very like classical music, stately fashion. And then we drop into the Gnome where things just get really weirdly prog almost immediately. Like that kind of like start, stop, herky-jerky progness that, you know, defines, you know, Rush at their prog heights, some King Crimson. And we get that just very indulgently prog energy from the beginning, and then we're just off on just a full-on prog attack for like the next 4.5, 5 minutes. Just an absolutely sort of blistering start to what is a fantastic, fantastic live album. And I think that's one of the reasons I like the Gnomes so well, along with The Curse of Baba Yaga is going to be on here in a couple songs. The fact that they're doing it, that they're pulling it off live, there's no overdubs, it's just them, absolutely fantastic. The Gnome is number 6. Number 5, Abaddon's Bolero. Love me a good bolero, per unwritten prog law, because it's a slowly building piece. The volume's got to slowly come in. We can't just start off with full volume. We got to slowly increase it. It is a bolero. I really like when Emerson, Lake and Palmer, to me, they have like the two types of jams. They have their sort of written prog pieces, which look like the cover of Tarkus. They're just this unwieldy, monstrous, like prog machine with these 3 parts that kind of like just rotate around each other. And then they have these really straight sort of linear jams. This is one of those like linear jams. Another one of those sort of straightforward linear jams is going to be later on this list. But I like that sort of jam band, a little more, I guess, I don't know if typical is the word, but I like them just staying in that one lane for an entire 8 minutes, 9 minutes, and like layering on top of that and soloing over that and adding their like different flavors to something that's a little more like rhythmically or just conceptually like straightforward. And this is a fantastic execution. This could have gone on for like 10 more minutes. I wish they had completely indulged themselves in this bolero, but it's a fantastic listen at the end of Trilogy. Number 4 is The Curse of Baba Yaga. Ideally, I wanted to cheat and go the hut into the curse, back into the hut, because the hut kind of frames the curse well. But the curse does kind of start over, even though it's part of that threesome. Has this the beginning reminds me of Primus's, it's the Pressman, I think, just that, you get some energy that's very, just very like, setting up evil. Like the opening like chords on this just is like you feel like the curse is being laid upon you. And the vibe that is set up early is like the curse is going to be this long drawn out painful thing, and you're going to like wither away, kind of like Stephen King's Thinner, because the way it starts off with just this like this very dramatic like evil sounding music. But then once the curse is like laid upon you, it just wreaks havoc. And all of a sudden we're just like full on attack, and like things are going at you. And it's like, oh, this is not going to be a slow, long drawn out curse. Now that it's been laid upon me, it's just going to like completely eviscerate my soul in like a matter of minutes. And it's frightening. Absolutely phenomenal song. And I think the title of it, The Curse of, just adds a little bit of evilness to the entire vibe in the best way possible. Number 3, Toccata. Just almost industrial. Absolutely just a full-on great proto-industrial prog attack. The nice little middle section. Weird keyboard noises at the end, like like video game like chaos. Like we get a little bit of everything over the course of this song. It's absolutely just exhilaratingly fantastic. Yeah, just absolutely a fun prog, indulgent, full-on attack. The band at their best. Listen. Number 2, Fanfare for the Common Man off Works. The latest song on this list, as far as the most recent song on this list. Again, this is like a straightforward, it's like almost their version of krautrock, man. It's their version of like, there are times when this thing has established its groove and we're like, we've gotten through the fanfare part and we're into like maybe the solos. It reminds me of Golden Earrings, Radar Love. Like we're definitely getting some hardcore krautrock energy in here in the best way possible. And it's just this just goes on and on and on. This is one of those songs. They could have doubled the time on this and I would have been fully invested. And the way it's just like sort of this driving rhythm and we're laying over the fanfare and then we get the solos and it's like bliss. I could listen to this forever. Just an absolutely great listen. And then my number one, which I think is by far their best thing they've done, the title track to Tarkus, the 20-minute Tarkus. This is a prog rock beast. As I mentioned in the album video, like every single, I mean, all the prog bands do this, right? They have these 20-minute epics. You got like Thick as a Brick, 2 20-minute epics. You got Supper's Ready. You got Close to the Edge and Everything on Topographic Oceans and Gates of Delirium. And so with Yes, you have a lot. King Crimson's got them. But I would say every single other band, all of those prog pieces, which I might ultimately rank better, but you can hear the different parts. Like Supper's Ready could have been divided into like 7 different songs. Close to the Edge could have been divided into 5 or 6 different songs. Almost everything on Topographic Oceans is clearly 2 different songs that could have been separated, if not more. This one, even though there are definite different vibes and parts throughout it, we even get an apostrophe riff at one point, it feels like one cohesive piece. It feels like, again, going back to that cover, that picture on the cover, it feels like one lumbering, just mechanical piece. And yeah, we might be out here on this part or out here on this part or up here, but we're still all really connected. And it's not sort of this linear journey where like we're in a different section, we're in a different section, we're in a different section. We're on the same path. We're just walking through like different biomes, right? This really feels like one just big lumbering piece is just kind of moving around as you go from part to part. And I think it's kind of unique in a 20-minute song, at least as far as like 70s prog classics go. But that's my number one, Tarkus. But anyways, that's what they look like right there. In writing, yeah. And I do want to give a shout out to Carnival 9, First Impression Part 2. Boiled it down to a great prog single. Well done on that part, boys. But anyways, let me know what your favorite songs are. Let me know which ones I missed. Let me know which ones I didn't miss. Let me know other things in general, Comment, subscribe, like, share. And I hope this cold weather's not making me sick because my throat's starting to hurt, people. My throat's starting to hurt. All right. Peace. Talk to you later.